Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Good evening, golf enthusiasts, and welcome to my new webinar series, Tuesday Traces. I've got a bunch of really fun folks lined up to host with me. Next week, I'll be joined by my good buddy, Mike Shy. It's going to be super fun to chat with him after Bryson plays in the FedEx St. Jude Invitational this weekend. The purpose of these webinar series is to share how the V1 pressure mat powered by BodyTrack is used at home in a home golf studio. I'll be joined tonight by my buddy Jim Altamirano, who is a new member of the V1 family. He recently purchased some technology for me, and using the V1 Pro Home Studio software and his new pressure mat, Jim is able to connect with golf professionals all over the world, like my other dear buddy, Jake Thurm, who is joining us from Chicago. And Jake will diagnose the trace, and then he's going to give a live lesson. So I've been working with this technology for a while now, and I hear a lot that what's the hardest part about it? Well, the hardest part seems to be that you got to figure out the trace. So we're going to do some series, and we're going to show you how to recognize a trace and then what to do with it. So that's kind of the purpose of tonight. So we're going to talk about one specific trace tonight. I will share what that is later. I have some fun things to help us remember it. For those of you that are new to these webinars, a little bit about V1 Sports. We are a 25-year-old company. We are the leader in delivering video analysis and instruction solutions to golfers and golf instructors all over the world. We actually work with lots of sports, specifically baseball. We're putting this in the hands of many different sports, so it's not just for golfers. I am Mandy Von See. I am the sales manager for V1 Sports. I am based in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. I am kind of known as the V1 cheerleader. I absolutely love my job. I get to work with the best clients and put very cool technology in their hands. I treat all of my clients as friends. I get to meet really cool people along the way. Just this past week, I got to spend time with Vijay Singh and his caddy Danny at TPC Sawgrass. And we spent about 3 hours putting them both on the pressure mat. I can't wait to share their videos. They're very cool. And it was a lot of fun. So a little bit about my two guests tonight. Jake Thurm has been named one of best young teachers in America by Golf Digest for 3 consecutive years. He has the largest Nike junior golf camp and the largest USA junior golf team in the country. He is definitely one of our pressure mat experts, and he's my good friend. There is no one that has put more tour players on the pressure mat during tour events than Jake. He's actually going to show us later a drill with a tour player playing multiple tours, I think, that we'll see later. So we have that live, I think, from last week. Today, he's going to provide a demonstration of an online golf lesson using the mat and Jake's in Chicago and Jim is in New Mexico. So Jake, thank you so much again for joining me this evening. And thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And you've forgotten there that I'm just your caddy.
Right.
If nothing else, I'm just Mandy's caddy.
Well, I need a really good caddy, right? I mean, come on. Okay, that's funny. Jim Altamirano is the man with the gorgeous hair that you see on your screen. He has a single-digit handicap, and he lives in New Mexico. Jim is a self-proclaimed total golf enthusiast, always trying to get better. My team laughed last night because during our test, Jim was still trying to hit balls in his studio. We're like, Jim, we got a test. He's like, well, I'm working on my game. So recently, Jim worked with me to purchase and install the V1 Pro software, the V1 pressure mat, and one high-speed camera. We have another high-speed camera on the way. We're kind of doing it in stages. We're going to hear more about Jim's golf game and his technology in his studio shortly. Jim, thank you so much for joining me. Please don't be nervous. We're thrilled to have you as part of the family and thrilled to have you here with us tonight. So thank you for that. Sure, of course. All right, you guys know I'm going to do a little screen share so we can review an agenda so we'll know what we're going to talk about here, just so we stay on track. Okay, so there's our starting screen. We are improving at home with the V1 pressure mat powered by BodyTrack. I think this is very cool technology. It's very easy to use. And tonight we're going to talk about, I obviously did our introductions. We're going to talk about Jim's story on how, as a home user, he decided to add this particular technology to his golf studio. We'll see his studio. We're going to see some cool technology. It was very easy to set up. He'll tell you all about it. We're going to talk about what the pressure mat is and why it's important for everybody, not just tour players, not just folks taking golf lessons, but also people that have, the home studio. We're going to see Jim's before swing. We're going to diagnose his trace. We're going to make sure we remember what it looks like. I have a cool way to do that. And then Jake's going to give us some really easy drills to fix that trace and make it better and closer to linear, which is what we're shooting for. And then we'll see Jake work with Jim live in his studio. We've got a couple cameras set up, so bear with us as we toggle between screens and cameras, and this should be a lot of fun. Okay, so that is our agenda. Let me get back to my notes. Okay, so Jim, I just want to hear a little bit about, I want our users or our listeners tonight to hear about how you got here. How did we meet? So a lot of the home users with golf studios are wondering, why do I need this technology? Why would I ever consider this for my house? So tell us why did you pick V1 software and then the pressure mat?
Well, you go out and get a lesson and a pro tells you some things about your swing and you work on them. And inevitably you go back to the way you used to hit the ball a lot of times. So I was trying to figure out a way to make changes in my swing and have them stay. So I said, well, why don't I just look at getting a studio? I started out with a SkyTrack. I built this studio. I had an extra garage bay, the kids got and everything. I decided to convert it into a studio and did some research on screens, on mats. And I hit a bunch of balls in here with the SkyTrack, and I was using my Apple phone with V1, the basic V1 software. And that's always such a hassle to set up, and you have to go over and stop your phone and the picture's not quite right. So I started doing some research and I started with V1 and I saw where there was this link to find out more about your great technologies from the camera side. I didn't know about the body mat at the time, the body track. So I sent a link to V1 and Mandy called me and we started talking and I told her what I was trying to do. And that's how I got here. And now I have this great camera, high definition camera. But more importantly, I think I have this body mat. And people like Jake can tell me, Jim, you're just not getting through the ball. You can see it right there on the body track. And I can't imagine anything cooler. So that's why I decided to do it.
And Jim, tell us about your golf game. I mean, I know you're a single digit handicap. How often are you in that studio?
So I'm a late golfer. I played tennis growing up, played collegiate tennis and had no use for golf. And pretty soon tennis destroyed my body and I needed something to do. So I took up golf and I just became incredibly addicted to golf I was probably in my late 30s. And ever since then, I've just found it an incredible sport. And what's great about it, even as I age, I still feel like I can get better. And I know Jake's going to make me a little bit better today. So, I'm always trying to be as good as I can be. I know I can't go out on the tour, but I want to, be competitive in the club championships and things like that. And this here, I think, is going to get me to the next level with all these neat things I have in the studio. And now I have Jake to teach me how to use them.
You do. You can connect with any instructor that knows how to work with the pressure mat through the software. But I love the story too, because we had so much fun talking and we were absolutely going to get you some software and some cameras for your studio. And then I think I invited you to one of my webinars. And that's how you found out about the mat, yeah?
Yeah, I saw the webinar and I was like, wow, this mat, nobody ever, any pro I've ever had, he's always helped me with getting my weight back, getting through the ball, working on my takeaway, but no one's ever talked to me about my legs and how to create force in them. And I've read about it and I've tried it on the range, but I have no idea what I'm doing. But now that I have this mat, I think I
Well,
can get to the next
I'm
level.
happy to hear that, and I'm happy to share that story because that webinar was the happy hour with Hashimoto, and we were definitely drinking during that webinar. So I'm glad to know that it still got you. I got your attention, and I proved that you need a mat for your home studio. So that was good. Now I'm gonna, you and I know that I know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask it for a reason because my support team will be happy to hear the answer. How difficult was it to set up your mat? What was the learning curve when you got it late that Friday afternoon after hours and you wanted to play with it that weekend? How difficult was it to set up? Tell me what you did.
So I got it and I was anxious to get it hooked up to my iPad and I couldn't, I just installed the software and I called you and in like 3 minutes, you said, do this, do that, and boom, we had it working.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. So just for the record, for my support team and my customer success team, the sales girl got the mat set up in 3 minutes. I love it. It really is that easy. It's plug and play. Okay, now can you just talk a little bit, Jim? I know that the pressure mat's cool, but as far as getting the technology into your studio, did you have any troubles getting it installed or trained or set up, or were you confused? What was your experience with getting everything else besides the map?
It's been great. So I have the, since I'm using the high definition camera, I have a pretty powerful laptop. And you guys were great. You did checks on my laptop on the NVIDIA side to make sure it had the bandwidth to handle the 2 high definition cameras with the body tracking. You guys were great, telling me that everything I needed. And then once I got everything in, I called your support team, and within like 20 minutes, they had my camera focused. They taught me how to do the different settings on the camera. And every time I have a question, I just call and they're there, and they've been very, very helpful.
Awesome. I love that. And I love bragging on my team and the fact that we pick up the phone. And that's super important to us at V1 as we support golf instructors, home users, people using our software, and the pressure mat. Okay, so thank you, Jim, for sharing a little bit about how you got it, how easy it was, and what led you to that decision. Everybody out there, I want you to know that you can have a virtual lesson using V1 software and the pressure mat from any of the certified pressure mat instructors anywhere in the world. Our software will capture the data. It is plug and play, and you can shoot that video through the app to an instructor in moments and get the feedback back. So that is a really cool thing, especially during COVID. Today, we have Jake Thurm. He is definitely one of the biggest experts on this technology. A few days ago, Jim sent his swing over to Jake. So Jake has been checking it out. Jake let my team know which trace we are going to be dealing with today. So Jake, before we get into Jim's trace, I'm going to throw a slide up, and I want you to tell us a little bit about what the pressure mat is and why it's important. And, we're going to kind of keep this super simple for the home user. We probably have lots of golf instructors out there, but this is more for the golf student and, exactly why this would be important for a home user. So I'll start with this screen. This is what is the pressure mat?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first off, did you say you and Hashimoto were drinking during happy hour?
we had a happy hour with Hash webinar, and yes, we were both drinking, but we did have a good webinar, I think. Jim came to us from that, so.
Shocking.
Learned a lot.
Okay. Shocking. Hashimoto drinking. If I wasn't sitting down,
I was drinking.
If I wasn't sitting down, I'd have to sit down. Okay, so basically, when you get your V1 pressure mat, it measures the average amount of vertical force under each foot. Lead side, trail side, so for the right-handed golfer, that'd be left side, right side. It also measures heel and toe pressure, and we'll get a little bit into that, especially with Jim's trace today. You guys have already emphasized how lightweight and portable it is. I think probably what's a good note, because I always get this from people like, you know, I've become synonymous with this bit of technology, which is a very good thing. And everybody always asks me how I got in the door with that. Honestly, I learned off of other technology, and then this was the portable solution. So when for me, my academies tend to be outside my winter academy, tend to be all outside. I tend to travel a lot, so I'm always on the go. So this honestly was the most usable technology for me. Portability to me is very important, being that I am not in a fixed location at any one time. So very lightweight. You said I've put more tour players on it than anybody. That's probably true. I've definitely taken it through airports more than anybody. So I've traveled with that. I've slept with it. And I've, you know, said supportive, nurturing things to it at night. So anyways, I've been married to this thing for about 5-6 years. It measures the center of pressure, which is what the big one that we'll get into, because I really think on the home market, that is the most teachable graph or that you'll see. But it also measures a velocity chart. Again, for the real golf nerds out there, for a lot of the instructors, I get a lot of questions focused on that. And then you get the verticals, which is very cool. But again, if I'm a home user and I'm putting this in, and by the way, Jim, I'm totally jealous of your setup. I work like many instructors 6 to 7 days a week, and my wife wants me to put one into the garage, not because she cares about my own game. It's more for my kids and the kids in the neighborhood. So I'm gonna have to check your setup out and get it done at my place, because evidently I don't work enough. So now I have to coach every kid in the neighborhood. So, but anyways, the top graph is the center of pressure chart. And basically, yep, right there, what we're circling, the left foot is on the left side of it and the right foot is on the right side of it. It is the most teachable chart that you use. Even if you are an instructor and understand the other charts, your clients or these home users will totally understand. You just have them live, push down on their lead side, and they'll see the center of pressure go left, assuming right-handed player, push down on the trail side, heel and toe. They will totally get it in the moment, and you are ready to capture. Okay, so here's the 3 most common pressure flaws. This was something that Terry Hashimoto and I have come up with after, you know, nearly a decade of doing this. And what you'll see, especially in amateurs game, is too much pressures in the toes during the swing, specifically transition and downswing through impact. A lot of backup in the irons, especially with juniors. Sometimes that can be a strength issue. Backing up pressure would mean that the pressure is going to the trail foot through the impact interval. And then pressure too slow to the lead side. Now that is definitely, I'm going to say 90% of golfers and maybe 100% of home users, not you, Jim, are going to be struggling getting pressure too much to the lead side. Typically, that is a better player's problem to get it there too quickly, but it is certainly the most common flaw that we see with most double-digit handicap golfers. And I got some ideas on how to fix that as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you for that brief review. And I think that keeps it nice and simple. Okay, now that we sort of understand what it is and what it measures, what we're looking at as far as pressure, let's show them what we're dealing with as far as Jim's trace. Now, we're going to talk about one trace today, and then we're going to talk about what we're shooting for. Well, we're going to talk about 2 traces. So Jim's trace and then what we're shooting for. So Anna is going to screen share and show us in the V1 Pro software Jim's swing videos.
Yep, there it is.
And so, Jake, if you'll just sort of diagnose this and tell people how what we're looking at, and then we'll throw a little reminder up here in a minute.
Sure. So first thing is, if this is very new to you, I always want to know the commonalities of the great players to everybody else. In other words, if the commonality has to be common through all the players, otherwise, that would be something you want to communicate to all of your players that are using it. So you will always see pressure on the lead side. Now, here's the interesting thing. Again, if this is new to you, we are looking at Jim through the face on. His feet, just like I described before on the center of pressure chart, his left foot is on the left side of that chart and his right foot is on the right side. So it is the opposite as the camera sees him on the face on. I think that's very important to note. But just very common for a good player, and I think Jim told me he was about a 4 or 5 handicap. He has a touch more pressure on the lead side than the trail side. Again, opposite of how you're viewing the camera, opposite of how you're viewing Jim. So he actually has 56% on his lead side. That is very common. We say about 55 to 60%. It completely depends on the club, the terrain, you know, environmental issue, all that stuff, what kind of shot he's looking to hit, that kind of circumstance. But touch more on the lead side. If you want to go ahead and play it, if they're going to play it, you're going to say, yep, there it is. Cool. So you're going to see the pressure at some point get into the heel. Now, I will say this, pause it right there, kind of at the top of the swing. That'd be great. Okay. I will say this and this is just a little tip actually for you, Jim. Always give the V1 pressure mat time to center. So if you saw where his starting point was on the center of pressure, you could see how it was under the crosshairs right there. So I can safely say that Jim is getting pressure into his heel. But if we get it more centered, and again, it just takes a second to auto center, then obviously you're going to be a little bit more accurate with the numbers. But the general direction of the trace and all the swings he showed me really didn't change. So it's a very ingrained pattern where he goes into his heels. Now have him go into transition, please. And it's going to go in from his heels and it's going to go out to his toe. Could you please go back to impact? Now, you probably should show how to set impact. I think that's kind of important. The moment of truth, obviously. So right there, we're going to set impact on the screen. Beautiful. Now, kind of interesting if we step him back a little bit. So just step him back. And if you're familiar with the P system, kind of coming into the ball. So you'll see 61%. Now take him into impact from there. 61% on the lead side, pretty much into a balanced foot. You can see that actually his pressure is retreating a little bit or going back to the trail side, okay? Now this could be a plethora of things. My teaching partner is a doctor of physical therapy, so I would already have a screening on Jim if this was an in-person lesson where I would know if there's any restrictions. But again, if there's no restrictions there, what this also could be is how Jim actually times and releases the club at the bottom. So his pressure is backing up on, I believe this was an 8-iron, correct, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I, by the way, and I don't think anyone's looking at me, but I've got his on my iPad back here. So this is an 8-iron. So I would constitute that to being more of a scoring club. So when somebody shows this pressure trace where it kind of goes into the heel, comes out through the toes, backs up a little bit, and then go ahead and play him all the way to his finish, please. We're going to call that more of a fish hook. It went into the heel, came out the toe, went out to the toe, and then he eventually finished back in the heel. So we've categorized that as a fish hook trace. And because it is indeed a scoring club, I got 8-iron swings from Jim 2 days ago. And I got wedge swings from Jim a couple days ago. You're probably better off in scoring clubs with somebody showing this trace of getting them to be a little bit more linear. Driver would be a different thing altogether. So the fish hook, pressure goes out to the toes. I don't know if we have the downline view of him. Do we? Oh yeah, look at this. You guys are so good. Okay. So if we can actually go back to address, this is kind of fun. Okay, and again, you can see his center of pressure wasn't 100% centered, but it was a lot better this time than the other one. Can we put a little bit of a line on it? Here's the very technical term for this: tush plane. Can we put a line on his rear, or what we'd like to call your best side there, your best angle? Okay, yeah, straight down, perfect, awesome. Awesome. So this is commonly referred to as the tush plane. I know, highly technical. So if we go in the backswing here, just kind of step them along, just real slow, right? You see his pressure initially go again towards the heel, but it's going to start moving towards its toe. So the funniest thing is a lot of people talk about like that I lose my posture in the downswing, and it's so interesting. Stop them right there. stop right there. This is a key point here. So this client might tell you, I lose my pressure, or I lose my posture in my downswing, right? The interesting thing that the body track would show is actually, if I'm looking at this, the overwhelming majority of the pressure is actually in his toes at this point in the swing. So this would signal when he's actually starting to lose his posture, even though he hasn't come off that yellow line yet, okay? This is one of those commonalities of great players. I've never had a great player, a PGA Tour player, so on and so forth, that didn't have some pressure in their trail heel at some point in the backswing. And at or near the top is probably a pretty good thing for Jim to work on, because now if we kind of step him down a little bit more from here, so go from transition, yeah, good. So now you start seeing the gap develop right there, right there. A couple clicks later, Jim starts coming off the yellow dot, the yellow line. So he's thinking, okay, when I transition, I lose my posture. I would tell Jim he was losing his posture in his backswing with how he was pressuring the ground. So think of it this way: when you increase the pressure in your toes, your pelvis is going to move out towards the golf ball. That's going to make your upper body move away from the golf ball. And it's happening, and you can see this with the body track, it's happening sooner than you'll actually be able to witness. All right. Again, he's going to tell you about transition and downswing. Oh yeah, my tush comes off the plane and I lose my posture then. Again, if you would help him out by getting his pressure in his heel in his backswing, he'd have such a better chance of doing that. Please step him down some a little bit further here. Okay, and again, you're seeing the same commonality. Stop right there. Go back to that 63 number, please. And again, this is a better player, and this is a very ingrained pattern. So there's a 66, 63, perfect, perfect. So we're at 193% in his toes. I want you to, can you use the magnifying glass on the V1 and just kind of magnify his feet at the bottom there? His feet are actually on the mat as you view it live, or as you would view it on in person or on the camera. But if we were able to stop Jim at that point and just give him a little tap, he'd fall flat on his face. Okay, because all of his pressure is almost completely into his toes at this point, even though you would think he was very grounded, flat-footed, even, so on and so forth. So it's so interesting because there's been a lot of great players that actually have swung very, we call it trail ankle pronation for all the golf nerds out there, but basically very flat-footed like a Mo Norman and so on and so forth, where the foot doesn't come up, but you can still chart and see that actually Jim is on his lead side, but he is completely in his toes, which is why he's coming off that yellow line. All right, go ahead and step him down. So note that 66, take him to impact. And I always advise setting impact. So you see him back up to 51, then he got back to 56. So there's a little bit of a backup there. Okay, and then we're gonna just set impact. Perfect. So again, this was a little bit more centered, but even though Jim's feet look like they're completely on the ground, what the body track is reading is 100 and 100 amount of pressure in the toes. Okay, and if we draw a new tush line on his tush line, so maybe use a different color here. There you go. I like your style. Perfect, perfect. So what is that gap, and what is that, and what is that doing for Jim right now? Okay, there's some decisions to make here. This is obviously how Jim releases the club, and solid contact issues, the ability to create a consistent low point. All of this stuff is in play with Jim telling me, hey, I just want to be a better iron player. I do come out of my posture. I think I would benefit staying in it and rotating a little bit more. Interestingly to note that if he's 100% in his lead toe there, he's not going to get much mobility or rotation out of the lead hip, okay? Because the pressure is not going to allow for that. Go ahead and take him all the way to his finish. So he's going to be a person that looks like he stalls out and kind of flips the club face to close it, all right? Now, I have seen players that have this release pattern. But ultimately, you have to determine what the player's restrictions or limitations are and what their goals really are. This more of a flip release, there's excessive amount of desperation closing at the bottom. So if I can get his pressure into his lead side without backing up, and specifically into his lead heel, he'll actually start showing us through impact. Can we take him back to impact? No, I won't draw anything inappropriate on here because I'm not the one drawing it. But you would be able to see both. I usually say show me both cheeks, but I'll just say both pants pockets. That eventually we need to get you to show us both pants pockets, the back pockets, through impact, which would get him, again, a little bit more forward and a little bit more open, and it would quiet down the closure of the club face through impact, which would give him a little bit more consistency in terms of club face delivery. So, and I got some drills for that. So go ahead and fast forward them all the way to the finish there. Beautiful. So you can see the club face comes out very closed and very low. That usually is an indicative or a sign of a lot of face closure through impact.
Jim, what do you think?
Awesome.
I guarantee you Jim's taking swings in his studio right now. Okay, Jake, do you want to see more swing videos, or should we show the drills?
Yeah, we can show some drills. Sure. Okay. Absolutely.
Anna, are you gonna kill your share? I want to do a quick share, just really quickly, because in my neck of the woods, this is what we call a fish hook. Okay, so that's how we remember. That's my son Roland, and this is a fish hook, Jim. There you go. All right, back to it. So that's how we'll remember that you're a fish hook, Trace. Okay, I think that Anna's got some drills of a tour player that you worked with last week that we're gonna show.
Sure.
Petrovic. Anna, can you share that that drill video?
Okay, beautiful. So there's the tush fence, or what I call the cheek checker. So basically, I got Petro on there. Petro is a PGA Tour winner and hopefully making his return to the Champions Tour. Champions Tour is obviously, with what's been going on, a little hiatus. So basically, I did not lead off with the cheek checker. I evaluated his trace, and you know, everybody always asks me, when do you make a change? And I always say the ball flight necessitates the change. So the big thing is, he was talking about blocking it and hooking it, and this is actually a gentleman that was looking to fade it to make his livelihood. So go ahead and play it. We could put the line on the cheek checker too, just for fun. There we go. There we go. So we've got a couple things going on here, and this would be good. So just kind of, yes, walk him through it. Let's go to impact, and I want everybody to kind of watch his front foot a little bit. Okay, so I did a couple things for Petro there on this drill. Is basically I made him start stepping as soon as the club was probably about halfway back, which would obviously get him, if he stomped, that get his pressure in his front foot sooner and trap it there. But if you notice how deep his hips are, in other words, and depth would be another way of saying he's showing me both pants pockets, both rear pants pockets through impact. And that allows him to stay more bent forward in posture and rotate through. So, and what I told him was, if there was a stack of books behind you on the through swing, especially, now again, this is a high speed player that can get stuck from the inside. Said, if there is a stack of books, he goes, you want my tush on the books? I go, no, I want you to knock them over. So I was telling him actually that I'd pick up the fence, just go ahead and knock the fence over. And that's what he was doing on the follow through. Go ahead and make him go all the way to on the through swing here. So this is commonly called the step drill. Now, typically, I don't have tour players do a lot of step drills, but I do have amateurs do a lot of step drills. You've seen it before on, even super speed has you put your feet together, and as soon as you swing back, you step forward. That drill is very good on a body track to get the pressure into the lead side sooner rather than later. And if most of your amateurs that are going to get on here and your at-home users are going to struggle with that, especially if they're not as talented as Jim. So I love that little step. I just made him, instead of step towards the target, I made him step towards the fence. So yeah, we can show the next little drill there. And actually, can you use the magnifying glass to show the tennis ball there? There we go. That does not come common with the V1 pressure mat. That does not come in stock. That is a cut in half tennis ball from Dick's that we made right there. And hopefully Jim has one of those today, but if not, I'll show some ways around that. I always joke that it's funny. We've got a pressure mat that's worth thousands of dollars, and then we got a little tennis ball, which I think I used with Brian the last time I did this. So I'll explain that in a second. But the step drill is excellent for getting pressure into the lead side sooner rather than later, which the overwhelming majority of at-home users will struggle doing. So getting them stepping, and usually it's towards a target, but if you're trying to get them a little bit more rotation, I actually have them step towards where the tush plane is.
Cool. Okay.
We got another drill here.
I think that was the only one we, she might have another one. No, that was the only one because I saw the tennis ball in the chair, but we can get him live, and he might try some of these drills from the down the line camera.
Perfect.
Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So can you switch to your down the line camera?
I hope so. I'm going to share the screen here.
So, Jake, the other thing you mentioned to me is if you don't have a tennis ball, to pull your feet up, pull your toes up.
Yeah. So, well, Skip Gus will love this because it's from Sam Snead. Another thing that I like people to do on the V1 pressure mat is to, as most people know, Sam Snead used to practice with his socks and shoes off in the Georgia sun. So I like people to almost go barefoot. You don't have to go barefoot for me, Jim. It's okay. But basically, if they get on the V1 pressure mat and they have there's Skip. See, yes, he did. And they have a fishhook trace. And this is, again, I have to give credit where credit's due. This is the easiest way to achieve a more linear trace immediately with a client. This is from Terry Hashimoto, is just to have you set up, not even with the tennis ball on this one. And all I want you to do, Jim, is I want you to set up, and then right when you're about ready, I want you to lift the toes in your lead foot out of your shoe. So again, you're not really taking the front spikes out, but you're lifting your toes in your shoes. And obviously, if your client or at-home user is just in bare feet, you could obviously witness them do this. So get set up for me, Jim.
Should I restart? Because my pressure mat, I think I should restart, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe when we kicked over, we've got multiple cameras going in Jim's studio. Will says close V1 and reopen.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, just stand by, folks.
Otherwise, I'll just take my socks and shoes off, Mandy. And I don't know the last time I had a pedicure due to COVID.
I have a mat behind me, and I am happy to take I actually am not wearing shoes right now, so there you go. That's what happens when you grow up in the Low Country.
Yeah, you've had a pedicure recently.
Yes, I have. Hey, Jim, can you be still and let's let that center of pressure dot calibrate real quick. There it goes.
There we go. Beautiful. Okay. So, Jim, all you're going to do now that it's in the center of the screen, and I think that's an important note. I mean, a couple of the swings you sent me weren't perfectly centered, and I think the people at home just saw how quickly that actually happened. So always allow that to happen, especially if you want to dive into the numbers. If you want to be very specific about the numbers, you have to let it center. Now, all I want you to do is set up to the golf ball. So we have to lead off with the hashy fix here. So we're gonna have you just lift your toes in your left foot off the mat a little bit, and then just make a swing. You don't have to kill it, just make the swing. Okay, give me another one here. So what we want to make sure is, Jim, is that we want to make sure that we don't fall towards the ball. You know that famous picture of Hogan at Marion? If you look really close at his feet, the front spikes of his left foot, his lead foot, are actually up off the ground. So when you finish, I want you to keep those toes up, and I want you to finish in your heel. And what I tell my kids in my camps and stuff is I want you to go finish left heel, right toe. So keep your left toes up the whole time, and then finish in the left heel for me. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, just a little bunt here, nothing crazy. Okay, so you can see slowly but surely, as he's doing this live, the center of pressure is going more linear, and it's almost running parallel now to the little scope in the middle there. And really what you're trying to do when you're fixing a fishhook trace, him having a studio, is he could actually see his center of pressure live, and he could just make the movements on his own. So you wouldn't even need me. So Jim, keep your eyes up at the monitor for me.
Okay.
I'm just doing this off your setup. Keep your eyes up at the monitor, get set up. So get set up to the ball. Now keep your eyes up there. Now make some swings back and forth where you keep that center of pressure basically on the crosshairs there. Can you do that for me? So just, yeah, back, good. Now through, now keep it under there. Oh, yes. I call that the Emiliano Grillo trace. Now, without a golf ball, you were able to do that right away. And what everybody's watching you at home is you focus on just getting the center of pressure, again, more linear, not backing up, more in the heels, as everybody's also watching you maintain your posture and rotate more efficiently. Okay? Why don't you bring the tennis ball back into this? So I think that's an important note for the at-home users or some of the instructors on here, that honestly, once you kind of, you know how they say feel and real are two different things? I've never found that on the V1 pressure mat. When I ask someone to push down on the lead side, they do it. When I ask them to get into the pressure into the trail heel, they do it. They never do the opposite. And I think that's an important note. So Jim was able to make the trace that we desire going forward right away, just doing it live and in a biofeedback mode. All right, so we have the tennis ball, just like Petro, underneath that left toe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So here's what we're gonna do, Jim, is that actually at address, this is gonna sound weird. At address, I actually want you to smash the darn thing, okay? Like you're squishing it a little bit, right? But as you transition, I want you to completely let off of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And again, finish in that left heel, no fall towards the ball at all. And I'm done rhyming, I promise. All right. All right, you ready, Jim? Yeah, let it center. And you are going to mash down on it your whole backswing, but you are going to let off of it in your downswing, okay? Just give us a little 3/4, no problem. Okay, do it again. There's a slight bit of a delay, but we're kind of getting the general flow of the trace, which is important. This one Petro loved, I will say that. He's not a guy that likes me to explain a lot. He likes to feel a lot. So he loved we call it the little gas pedal here. That was really close. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, here's the thing, Jim. You're a 4 handicap, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. There's 3 directions that a 4 handicap can't lose their balance. That would be hanging back, that'd be towards the ball, And actually, no offense to Gary Player, because this would be so good for the double-digit handicaps out there, it actually towards the target would not be the best for you either. So I want you on the next one, if you lose your balance at all, I want you to almost like you saw with Petrovic, feel like you fell backwards, okay? Like behind you, to your rear. Can you do that for me? And so many great players, you watch the old videos of Hogan or Snead, after they hit the shot, they were trying to get open so much that they would actually. So just like the Petrovic, Jim, go ahead. Again, a little 3/4 swing here. Okay, good. And again, all of these are making it more linear.
Do you want
one
to
more
record
time,
one?
Jim.
Jake, do you want to record one?
Can we record one? That'd be awesome.
Jim, can we record one?
Yeah. I forgot I had to record it.
It's all right. Everybody was watching you live, Jim. You did great.
I know.
There we go, Jim. Just let it center. And actually, for this one, let's do this, Jim. If you're hearing me,
Yeah.
why don't we put the chair behind you as the tush plane? I know that's not like a piece of furniture that's normally in that room. At least I don't think it is. So all we're doing is we're doing the tush plane or the cheek checker the old-fashioned way with something that everybody has, which would be a chair behind him. That's all right. Why don't you go ahead and hit one, Jim, and then turn it on to the live mode. I think it's done recording. There we go. Good.
Ready?
Yeah, just let it center for a quick sec. As soon as it does, we're ready. Go ahead, Jim. Right cheek, left cheek. Okay, good. Now go ahead and go to that trace real quick. Just check it out. So Jim, you got to go over there and stop the record button and then analyze the trace.
Oh, I was just in live. Let me go to the record.
No problem. I'm jealous of your setup. Now I know for sure I'm going to be teaching all the neighborhood kids on my day off. Okay, so you're just going to go right cheek, left cheek. And the only way you're going to keep your left cheek on there is it's going to be more of a 3/4 swing. If you made a full follow through, Jim, your cheek would come off there, okay?
Yeah.
So wait for it to center. Just make a 3/4 swing. That way you can keep your rear on the chair.
It stopped. Sorry. I'm having that.
I think we're using his hit detector as a mic. We've got some multiple cameras set up for Jim today.
So obviously online when you're using this, because I use a lot of it with my iPhone and iPad, you can use a trim option. And you'll see a lot of, when you first get on here, again, at-home users or clients, so on, is you'll see a lot, the trace moving around quite a bit. What you want to do is you want to get rid of the access, because it'll look like my 5-year-old scribbling at first. Basically, you want to set, when you do the trim option, you want to set where he was. There we go. Beautiful.
He's been trained by the best. I mean, obviously, clearly.
I expect nothing less. And then again, as a general rule of thumb, I always
set the impact.
Set the impact. Yep.
Okay.
So the thing of it is, as much as what I would point out here, as much as that you are trying to get the line on the line, just like he did the biofeedback mode. What you would notice right away, again, and we can trim that up later so it's not kind of all over, right? As much as we're trying to get the line on the line, just like he did live with the biofeedback when he wasn't hitting the golf ball, what I'll point out is he actually got his pressure into his heel sooner rather than later. So if you just show that, yeah, just slow-mo it here. So the funniest thing is, because he got his pressure into his heel sooner rather than later, and I had him hit a 3/4 shot, had him stay on the tush plane a little bit. Yeah, that's good speed. Just step it from there. Good. Keep going. Beautiful. Good. So you can see a little bit off the chair there, but getting in the heel. Keep going, keep going, keep going. So got it in there, again, a little bit late, but if you drew that line, that 2D line that we had earlier that I called the tush plane, you would see that he was on it. And I call this a pressure in tension, okay? Because there's a lot of talk about ground reaction forces and that how it's a reaction and so on. It's so interesting when you change someone's intention of where and when to shift pressure, where being obviously getting Jim to get into his lead heel sooner rather than later. Just because he was trying to do that, you already noticed some changes in his golf swing as you're working towards ironing out his trace and getting it more linear. So the interesting thing is, though the line wasn't on the line, it got into the heel at least at some point. And what happens is Jim's not going to be falling towards the golf ball. Anytime you get pressure in the heel, your pelvis is going to go out towards the golf ball. You're going to extend away from the ball, and you lose your balance because you're in early verticals. Again, that was for all the instructors out there. So let's go back live, Jim, if we could, just live. We want to see you again live, that the flow. Okay, and then fix your eyes back up on the screen, and yet again, show me the biofeedback. You can use the chair since it's already there. You don't have to move it. And then I want you moving under the crosshairs, just like you did before. So let it center. And I would put you, my friend, on a steady diet of just doing like this, because I know you're gripping in the ground in a different way altogether. And this is what we call a clockwise pressure load of the trail foot. Basically, it means that Jim goes into his foot, and then he comes out from his heel and goes back in, feeling like it goes from his right heel to his left heel. Go ahead, Jim, just do it live. Yeah, since we're not capturing the swing, we don't really need to. There you go. Now keep it under there. There you go. Do it again. Now keep it way under there. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Excellent. And again, if this is an hour lesson, we start right here. We start from really kind of half swings where he's, again, more comfortable hitting with a chair behind him, so on and so forth. But really, I have him do a ton of biofeedback where he actually tells me, like, Jim, what does it feel like for you to get the pressure going from your trail heel to your lead heel as you do that? What's that feel like?
Feels like something that I haven't really felt before. It feels new.
I would completely agree. So when do you change the fishhook trace, right? If Jim struggles with face control, club path issues that go way out to the right, two inside out, blocks, hooks, all of this scenario, typically that's associated with his handicap, then we'd feel good about working on this over time and getting him, again, a little bit more in posture and a little bit more rotated. That way the path would neutral out a little bit and he'd have more face control through impact. So that's why we would do it. But it always goes back to the ball flight. So typically with a fishhook trace, and a better player tends to be a lot of blocks and hooks scenario, especially with driver. Does that sound familiar, Jim? Yeah.
Yep.
So it's funny when you do this long enough, you can guess a person's, ball flight just by how they interact with the ground. And the fishhook tracer, as they work over time to get the pressure line on the line back and through, there's a noticeable a reduction in the amount of dispersion that they have in their shots. So Jim, again, all of these drills are great. Some will be your favorite. Some will work really well with other clients. Some will work really well, it depends on the individual. But I would put you on a steady diet of really doing this live, doing that, because you got the perfect setup with the at-home setup. I'm completely jealous. And we just moved into our house, so I have no room for this right now, but you are motivating me to get room. But I would have you do it very live, almost like a 2 swings live and then capture one, and just with the goal of getting into the left heel sooner rather than later. And again, yeah. And then now do me a favor, just for Hashimoto, who I know is out there, and as we established before, probably drinking. Can we lift the toe? Move with the tennis ball and move the chair, and then let's just have you lift the toes and hit one. Remember, you're not allowed to put them down at any point all the way to the finish, okay? And again, this is the least intrusive, easiest way to clean somebody up. It's definitely a new way. They've never felt it like this before. Okay, yep. Just a little 3/4, no problem. There you go, straight across it goes. Now, it wasn't perfectly centered, but again, people are seeing that the center of pressure line is going straight across, and ultimately, that's why we call it a linear trace.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So we have a question, Jake, from Skip Gus, your buddy. He wants to know if you use the pressure mat with all your lessons.
I do. I think the important thing is to know how to do things in order. So to me, though I'm known for using a lot of tech in a lesson, my original mentors of the most high techie thing that they would use would be a video camera. So I even learned from a gentleman who's a Hall of Famer who just used still frame images. So I really think it goes back to the ball flight. That was the commonality that I learned from the Ballards, the Toskis, the Suddies, the McLeans. Always goes back to the ball flight. So before I look at a trace, I want to know what the ball flight issue is to obtain the diagnosis as to whether to change it. But I use the V1 pressure mat in putting. I use it in chipping. There's a YouTube video of me using it with Kevin Streelman in the bunker. The portability is very interesting to me. I used it in a fairway bunker and in the fairway of the same distance with a long drive guy, just to chart, just because I'm that nerd, right? Where I'm just charting the amount of vertical force and how it would change based off what they were lifting off of. But I use it for everything, but I only start changing things if they would have effects on the ball flight. So again, I already had Jim's videos. I already knew he was a good player. It was pretty obvious that probably when he gets on a TrackMan or a flight scope that he has excessive club path to the right, so inside out, and a lot of face closure where sometimes his draws tend to start left. And I'll tell you what, keep it as simple as possible. Draws that start left, you got to go back to your bag and get another ball. Like you're gonna be buying a sleeve at the turn. I don't know much, but I do know that. So that's why you feel very justified in helping someone improve their trace. It always goes back to the current ball flight problem or miss.
Cool. We are almost to our hour. Jim, can you kill your screen share so that I can answer a few more questions? Oh, just for the record, Jake, Brett Cohen joined my Hashimoto happy hour. He said that I had wine, but he did not see Terry drinking. So
Impossible.
I know
Impossible.
I know that he was
hooked up to an IV. He was receiving it intravenously. It's impossible.
Show everybody too. Speaking of how portable and easy, here is the pressure mat. Comes in this little bag. See how lightweight it is? How about that? Super easy. I'm close to beating you with taking them on a plane. I'm taking mine to Waco, Texas tomorrow. So anyway, I think we had a really fun time this evening. I think we made some big changes in Jim's golf swing. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us. I hope the time was better for all my golf professional friends who were not teaching during the day. My friends in the UK, thank you for staying up. And my team, thanks for support. I love you guys. Happy birthday to our CEO, Brian Finnerty. Please go shout out him on social media. Jim and Jake, thank you so much for your time. More importantly, thank you for your friendship and making my job so much fun. I love you guys. It was awesome. And yeah, tune in next week with Coach Shy and I. Should be fun. Thank you so much.